The summer I turned 13, I had a very clear picture of how things were supposed to go. School was finally out, and I imagined long, sun-drenched days swimming at the community pool or curled up on our back porch lost in a good mystery novel. Instead, I found myself confined to my bedroom, staring at the same four walls while the summer sun outside felt like a cruel joke. My older sister, Brooke, who was 17, had always been the golden child, our parents' perfect daughter. Straight A's, volunteering at the local animal shelter, never missing curfew, she could do no wrong in their eyes. I used to admire her, back when I was too young to see past the carefully constructed facade. Then, one Tuesday afternoon in mid-May, everything changed. Dad, Mark, was checking his credit card statement online when he noticed a string of unfamiliar charges. His face turned bright red as he scrolled. Mom, Sarah, standing behind him, hand pressed to her mouth in shock. "Who did this?" Dad's voice boomed through the house. I was in the kitchen, making a sandwich, when I heard the commotion. Walking into the living room, I saw both of them looking furious. Brooke sat on the couch, her expression carefully molded into concern. "What's wrong?" I asked, the words tumbling out before I could process the tension. Dad spun his laptop around. The screen was a blur of purchases I didn't recognize: clothes, cosmetics, food delivery. The total amount made my stomach drop. Some charges dated back weeks. "Would you like to explain these, Emily?" Dad's jaw was clenched. "I don't know what those are," I stammered, confusion clouding my mind. Brooke cleared her throat softly. "Dad, I saw her with your wallet last week." I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now, she trailed off, letting the accusation hang heavy in the air. My head snapped towards her. "That's not true. I never touched your wallet." "Lower your voice," Mom's sharp tone cut through my protest. "We're trying to have a civil conversation here." Nothing about this felt civil. My hands started to shake as I realized they actually believed Brooke's lie. Dad closed his laptop with a loud thud. Mom crossed her arms. "You're grounded for the rest of the summer." Dad's decision came swiftly, without hesitation. No phone, no computer, no leaving the house except for family obligations. But I didn't do anything. Desperation crept into my voice. "Please, just let me explain." "We don't want to hear excuses." Mom shook her head, disappointment etched across her features. "What you did was steal from your own father. That's unacceptable." Brooke maintained her concerned expression, even reaching over to pat my shoulder in what might have looked like sisterly comfort. I recoiled, earning a reproachful look from Mom. That night, I lay in bed, replaying the scene. Nobody had asked for my side of the story. Nobody questioned why I'd suddenly start making online purchases when I'd never shown interest in such things before. The injustice burned in my chest. It clicked then, those charges had been accumulating for weeks. Brooke had been buying things, probably arranging deliveries when she knew she'd be home. She'd gotten careless, or Dad had finally looked at his statement. Either way, she'd needed someone to blame, and I was an easy target. The next morning, Mom came for my phone and laptop. She stood in my doorway, hand outstretched. I handed them over without a fight. "What was the point?" "Your father and I are very disappointed in you," she said, slipping my phone into her pocket. "We expected better." The words stung. I'd always tried to be a good daughter. One false accusation from Brooke had erased years of good behavior. Summer break was 2 weeks away, and instead of looking forward to it, I dreaded the endless days of confinement. Summer stretched before me like a prison sentence. My friends texted and called, but I couldn't respond. They probably thought I was ignoring them. Eventually, they stopped trying. The last 2 weeks of school were torture. My friends noticed I was distant, but I couldn't bring myself to admit what had happened. The shame, even though I was innocent, kept me silent. When summer officially began, the isolation became absolute. The first week crawled by. Each morning, I'd hear Brooke's alarm, then listen as she got ready for her busy schedule: the animal shelter, shopping trips with Mom, beach outings with friends. Meanwhile, I was trapped, watching life happen through my window. Mom brought meals to my room, setting trays on my desk without much conversation. The silent treatment felt worse than yelling. At least anger would have shown they cared enough to engage. This cold disappointment created a distance I didn't know how to bridge. Dad avoided me entirely. He'd leave early, return late, spending evenings in his office. The man who used to tease me and ask about my day now couldn't meet my eyes. Brooke, though, floated through the house on a cloud of parental approval. She'd hug Mom and Dad, thanking them for handling the difficult situation. Sometimes, I'd catch her glancing at me, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. On the 4th day of my confinement, I heard her talking on the phone in the hallway. Her voice carried through the thin walls, deliberately loud. "No, she's not allowed to come," Brooke said. "She did something really bad. Stole from our dad. Can you believe it? I never thought my own sister would do something like that." The casual way she spread the lie made my blood boil. She wasn't just content with getting me punished, she wanted to destroy my reputation. I pressed my ear against the door. "I know, right? And she's trying to say she didn't do it. Like, the evidence is right there. Some people just can't take responsibility." My hands curled into fists. She'd crafted this entire narrative where I was the villain, and she was the concerned older sister. And people would believe her. Later that evening, I tried talking to Mom as she folded laundry. "Can I at least explain what happened? Please?" She didn't look up. "We've heard enough excuses. What we need from you is accountability." How can I be accountable for something I didn't do? Frustration leaked into my tone. That attitude right there is the problem. Mom finally met my gaze, and the disappointment in her eyes cut deeper than any punishment. Until you can admit what you did and show genuine remorse, nothing is going to change. It was circular logic. They wanted me to confess to a crime I didn't commit, and my refusal only convinced them further of my guilt. There was no winning. By the second week, my friends had stopped trying to reach me. The silence from my confiscated phone was deafening. Friendships at 13 were fragile. I filled my days reading, escaping into worlds where justice existed. Brooke, meanwhile, continued her summer as if nothing had changed, regaling Mom and Dad with stories over dinner. I ate in my room, listening to their laughter drift upstairs. The contrast between her freedom and my imprisonment was stark. One afternoon, I overheard Mom and Dad talking in the kitchen. "Do you think we were too harsh?" Dad, Mark, asked. "She stole from you, Mom," Sarah replied quickly, defensively. "What were we supposed to do?" "I know, but she seemed genuinely confused when we confronted her." Doubt had crept into Dad's voice. "Kids are good at lying when they need to be," Mom shut down his uncertainty. "Brooke saw her with your wallet. The charges are right there. Sometimes the evidence is exactly what it looks like." The conversation ended, and my brief hope that Dad might reconsider died. Mom was so convinced of my guilt she couldn't entertain alternatives. Brooke's word carried more weight than anything I could say. The isolation started affecting me deeply. Sleep became difficult. I'd lie awake, replaying the confrontation, wondering what I could have said. Brooke seemed to sense my deteriorating state, parading past my open door in new clothes, outfits that must have been among the items she'd ordered. The audacity amazed me. She was literally wearing the evidence of her wrongdoing while I suffered the consequences. I'd seen some of these clothes appear over the past few weeks, but hadn't thought anything of it. She'd claimed she bought them with allowance or that friends had given them to her. 3 weeks after my world imploded, Aunt Carol came to visit. She was Mom's younger sister, practical and sharp-eyed in a way that often made people uncomfortable. Unlike my parents, she asked questions before forming opinions. Carol arrived unannounced on a Saturday, walking into our Harmony Creek home with the confidence of someone who'd grown up there. She found me in the kitchen, staring at a bowl of soggy cereal. "You look miserable," she observed. "That's one way to put it," I mumbled. She pulled out a chair, studying my face with an intensity that always unsettled me. Carol was perceptive, seeing through facades. I wondered what she saw now. Later, during lunch, Carol asked, "Where's your sister?" My response was flat, lifeless. Carol studied me. "You don't look like someone who stole from her father." Hope flickered in my chest. Nobody asked what I thought happened. "Well, I'm asking now." She leaned forward. Mom interjected before I could speak. "Carol, we've already dealt with this situation. There's no need to drag it out. Humor me." Carol didn't break eye contact with me. "What's your version?" The story poured out of me. I explained I'd never touched Dad's wallet, never made online purchases, didn't even know his credit card information. I told her Brooke had lied. Carol listened without interrupting. When I finished, she turned to Mom. "Did you actually verify any of this before punishing her?" Mom's forehead creased. "What do you mean?" "The charges are right there on the statement." "I mean, did you check where the purchases were made from? What devices were used? Anything beyond just assuming she did it?" Carol's tone had sharpened. "Credit card companies track that. Every online transaction leaves a digital trail." Dad had entered the kitchen midway through. He frowned at Carol's suggestion, but something shifted in his expression, maybe doubt, or the first stirrings of guilt. "I'll call the credit card company," he said, leaving the room. The next 2 hours passed in agonizing silence. Carol stayed, sipping coffee, making small talk no one engaged with. Mom kept glancing towards Dad's office, worry replacing her earlier certainty. I barely dared to breathe, terrified Hope might jinx whatever Dad was discovering. When Dad finally emerged, his face was pale. He held several printed pages, his eyes refusing to meet mine. The charges were made from Brooke's phone. His voice was hollow. "All of them." Mom's coffee cup clattered against the table. "That can't be right," she gasped. "I had them verify twice." Dad set the papers down. I could see rows of transactions, dates, times, device identifiers. They showed me how to match the device ID to our family plan. "It's definitely her phone." Carol stood up smoothly. "Should we call Brooke down here?" Nobody moved. The weight of their mistake hung in the air. My parents had condemned me without evidence, believed a lie without question, and now the truth stared them in the face. "I'll get her." Mom's voice had lost all conviction. Brooke descended the stairs with her usual grace, smiling until she saw the papers. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "What's going on?" she asked Dad, sensing he'd be easier to manipulate. Dad slid the papers across the table. "The credit card company sent me the purchase details. Every single charge was made from your phone." The color drained from Brooke's face. She picked up the papers with trembling hands. I watched her mind work, searching for an explanation. "Someone must have hacked my phone," she said, the lie quick but lacking her usual confidence. Carol laughed, sharp and humorless. "That's your defense? Someone hacked your phone to buy clothes in your size from your favorite stores and have them delivered to this house? I don't know how it happened." Brooke's voice rose. "But I didn't do this." Mom looked between us, confusion and dawning horror warring on her face. "Sweetheart, if you needed money, you could have asked." "I didn't do it." Brooke's composure cracked. "Why would I steal from Dad when I have my own allowance?" "Because your allowance wouldn't cover designer clothes and daily food delivery," Carol's tone could cut glass. "And you knew your parents would believe whatever you told them." Brooke's eyes welled with tears, the waterworks she always used to get her way. But this time, even Mom seemed hesitant to offer comfort. I stood there, watching her performance, recognizing every calculated gesture. She perfected this routine over years. These charges go back almost 2 months, Dad said, his voice hollow. The first one was made on March 28th. A clothing purchase from that boutique downtown. Brooke's face went even paler. I don't remember. You wore that dress to your friend's party, I blurted out, the memory sharp. The blue one with the white flowers. I complimented you on it, and you said you'd been saving up for months. All eyes turned to me. I hadn't spoken much, content to let the evidence speak. But watching her lie ignited something fierce. That's right, Mom whispered. I remember that dress. You said you bought it with your allowance. Brooke opened her mouth, then closed it. Her tears, no longer effective, flowed freely. Everyone in the room now saw them for what they were, manipulation tactics. Dad cleared his throat. You told us you saw your sister with my wallet. I thought I did, Brooke whimpered. It was dark and I only saw her for a second. Our hallway has motion sensor lights, Carol interjected. They activate automatically. There's no scenario where you'd see something in the dark. Brooke's mouth opened and closed without a sound. She looked to Mom, seeking the unconditional support she'd always received. Mom's expression had shifted into something I'd never seen before when looking at Brooke. Why did you blame your sister? Mom's question came out barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to. Brooke grasped at this new angle. I just panicked when Dad found. The charges and the words came out wrong. You didn't mean to blame me? Anger finally broke through my shock. You sat right there and told them you saw me with the wallet. You watched them ground me for 3 weeks. You didn't mean any of that. Brooke flinched. I was going to tell the truth eventually when my voice exploded. After I lost all my friends? After I spent the entire summer locked in my room for something you did? That's enough, Dad said, his voice carrying a weight I'd rarely heard. He looked at Brooke with something approaching profound disappointment. Go to your room. Your mother and I need to discuss this. Brooke stood on shaky legs, tried to catch Mom's eye one last time, but Mom had turned away. The golden child climbed the stairs slowly, her perfect image shattered. After she disappeared, Dad turned to me. Emily, I owe you an apology. The words should have felt satisfying. Instead, they just made me tired. You didn't even ask if I did it. You just believed her. The truth of my statement settled over the kitchen. Dad's shoulders sagged, suddenly looking years older. Mom stared at her hands, unable to meet my gaze. We made assumptions, Dad continued, his voice rough. We should have investigated first. We should have given you a chance to defend yourself. You should have believed me. The words came out harder than I intended, but I didn't regret them. I've never lied to you. I've never taken anything. But the second Brooke pointed a finger at me, you decided I was guilty. Mom flinched. That's not fair, Emily. Isn't it? I turned to face her directly. You took my phone and computer without even listening to my side. You grounded me for the entire summer based on nothing but her word. What part of that sounds fair to you? The silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we couldn't say. Carol watched, an expression I couldn't quite read, something between satisfaction and sadness. Brooke has always been reliable, Mom finally said, though her voice lacked conviction. She's never given us reason to doubt her until now. Carol's interjection was gentle but firm. And the question you need to ask yourselves is why you were so ready to believe the worst about one daughter, while refusing to see any flaws in the other. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We should have listened to you. We should have investigated before punishing you. Yeah. Agreement seemed easier than forgiveness. You should have. The weight of their mistake hung in the air like something physical. I could see them struggling, trying to reconcile their image of themselves as good parents with the reality of what they'd done. How do we fix this? Dad's question came out plaintive, almost childlike. I didn't have an answer for him. Some things couldn't be fixed with apologies. The damage went deeper than a ruined summer. They'd shown me exactly how much they trusted me, and that revelation couldn't be unseen. Carol stood up, collecting her purse. I'm going to head out. But before I do, I want you both to think about why you immediately believed one daughter over the other without any evidence. The question lingered after she left. My parents sat at the kitchen table, not looking at each other, or at me. The silence felt different now, heavy with guilt instead of anger. Dad eventually retrieved my phone and laptop, returning them with another apology. Mom suggested we do something together as a family, maybe go out for dinner or see a movie. I declined both offers. The wound was too fresh. That evening, I heard raised voices from Brooke's room. The sound of my parents confronting their perfect daughter should have brought satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow. Years of favoritism couldn't be erased by one afternoon of truth. Brooke received her own punishment, grounded for the remainder of summer, additional restrictions. She had to get a job to pay back every cent she'd charged. Her phone was taken away, replaced with a basic model. College fund contributions were suspended. The punishment fit the crime, but it didn't address the deeper problem. My parents had built a shrine to Brooke's perfection while treating me like an afterthought. One instance of her getting caught didn't erase years of dismissal. School started in late August, and the dynamic in our house had shifted. Brooke no longer held her elevated position. She worked part-time at a grocery store, coming home exhausted and resentful. Mom and Dad tried to treat us more equally, but the effort felt forced. My friends had mostly moved on. They'd formed new groups, inside jokes I didn't understand. The weeks that should have been filled with memories had left me with bitterness. One afternoon in September, Brooke caught me alone in the kitchen. She'd lost weight over the summer, her face drawn from stress and long hours. The person standing before me barely resembled the confident sister I'd known. I'm sorry, she said, stiff and rehearsed. I shouldn't have blamed you. No, you shouldn't have. I didn't look up from my homework. Mom and Dad made me apologize. She admitted this like it somehow absolved her. The obvious nature of her forced contrition made it meaningless. Brooke shifted her weight. Are you ever going to forgive me? The question deserved consideration I wasn't ready to give. You destroyed my summer. You lied to our parents and let them punish me for something you did. You didn't come clean until you got caught. So, no, I don't think I'm going to forgive you anytime soon. She left without another word. In the following weeks, she tried various approaches to repair our relationship, small gestures, attempts at conversation. I rejected all of them with the same cool indifference she'd shown when watching me get punished for her crimes. By October, Brooke had paid back about 40% of what she owed. Dad showed me the spreadsheet he was using to track her payments, perhaps thinking it would make me feel better. It didn't. Money could be repaid, but trust couldn't be bought back. Mom started therapy, trying to understand her role. She'd ask if I wanted to join, but I always refused. Her guilt was her own to manage. I had my own healing. The strangest part was watching Brooke struggle with her fall from grace. She'd built her entire identity around being the perfect daughter. Without that foundation, she seemed lost. Sometimes I'd catch her staring blankly, her expression vacant and confused. Carol visited more frequently after the incident, taking me out for coffee or lunch, letting me vent without judgment. Her intervention had saved me from a completely ruined summer, and I'd never forget that. Your parents love you, she told me during one outing. They just forgot how to show it equally. Love shouldn't be conditional on being perfect. The observation had been forming in my mind for months. Carol nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. And they're learning that now, even if it's later than it should have been. Christmas that year was awkward. Brooke had finally paid off her debt, working double shifts. She'd lost her senior year to work in isolation, missing dances and football games. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part recognized the waste. I need to apologize again, Brooke approached me on Christmas Eve. Really apologize. Not because Mom and Dad are making me. I sat down the book I'd been reading, giving her my attention. What I did was unforgivable. She sat on the edge of my bed. I took from Dad, then blamed you to save myself. I watched you suffer and did nothing. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I understand how horrible it was. The apology sounded genuine this time, stripped of excuses. Why did you do it? I asked. Brooke was quiet for a long moment. I wanted things I couldn't afford, and I thought I could get away with it. When Dad found the charges, I panicked. You were there, and it was easy to shift blame. I didn't think about what it would do to you. I only thought about protecting myself. That's honest, at least. The admission didn't heal anything, but it provided clarity. I know I ruined things between us. Brooke's voice cracked. But if there's ever a chance to fix it, I want to try. Even if it takes years, maybe eventually. The non-commitment was the best I could offer. But not now. Not yet. She nodded and left my room without pushing further. The conversation marked a shift, subtle, but present. Brooke had finally acknowledged the full weight of her actions without minimizing or excusing them. High school continued. Brooke graduated the following spring and went to a state university instead of the private college she'd planned on. Her transcripts were still excellent, but recommendations from her volunteer work had mysteriously dried up. Reputations followed people. I rebuilt friendships slowly, learning to trust again. The experience had taught me that appearances could be deceiving, and that favoritism poisoned relationships. My parents' love came with conditions I hadn't recognized before, and that knowledge changed how I interacted with them. Years later, my sister and I developed a functional relationship, not close, but civil. She carved out a life that didn't rely on being perfect. And I learned that forgiveness could be partial without being false. Some wounds healed while others left permanent scars. But that summer when I was 13, locked in my room while the sun mocked me, I learned the most valuable lesson of my young life: trust is earned, not given. Love should be unconditional. And sometimes, the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you most. The credit card statement Aunt Carol demanded to see became the turning point. One piece of paper destroyed years of carefully maintained fiction. Brooke's perfect image shattered. My parents never fully recovered their easy confidence in their parenting choices. They questioned themselves more, sought second opinions, and tried to treat us with equal consideration. The effort counted for something, even if it couldn't erase what had already happened. The story spread through our extended family. The pedestal Brooke had occupied remained empty. I graduated high school 3 years later and chose a college across the country. Distance helped me process everything and figure out who I was beyond the shadow of my sister's fallen reputation. Phone calls home became brief and surface level. Brooke sent occasional messages, apologizing again, updating me on her life. I responded politely, but without warmth. Forgiveness remained out of reach. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple reconciliation. That summer, when I was 13, taught me that justice sometimes arrives, even when delayed. Truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how many lies try to bury it. And the people we think we know best can surprise us in the worst possible ways. Looking back, I understand the full scope of what happened. Brooke's actions weren't just about stealing and lying. They revealed a willingness to sacrifice me to save herself, a fundamental selfishness no amount of apologies could fully address. My parents' instant belief in her accusations showed where their trust truly lay. The lesson cost me a summer and several friendships. It cost my sister far more in the long run. But it taught everyone involved that actions have consequences, truth matters, and family loyalty shouldn't mean blind acceptance of lies. Without Aunt Carol's insistence on checking the actual evidence, I might have served my full sentence while my sister continued spending money she hadn't earned. The thought still makes my stomach turn. These days, I'm cautious about trust and quick to question narratives that seem too convenient. The experience shaped my worldview. I'm more skeptical, but also more resilient. I know I can survive injustice and come out stronger. Brooke works in accounting now, a choice that feels almost comically ironic. We see each other at major family events and maintain polite conversation. The closeness we might have had as sisters never materialized. My relationship with my parents improved, but never fully healed. Some breaks leave permanent cracks, visible reminders of what once fractured. We love each other, but the easy confidence of childhood never returned. The credit card incident became a defining moment for our entire family. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Aunt Carol hadn't visited that day. Would I have served my full sentence? Would Brooke have eventually confessed, or would she have let me take the fall indefinitely? The questions have no answers, only speculation. What I know for certain is this, that summer taught me the price of being underestimated and the value of having someone in your corner who asks questions before accepting convenient lies. It showed me that justice isn't always swift, but it can be thorough. And it proved that perfect images always crack eventually, revealing the flawed humans underneath. The girl who got grounded at 13 for crimes she didn't commit learned to stand up for herself, demand evidence before accepting blame, and never let anyone diminish her truth. Those lessons were hard-won and permanently etched into who I became. My sister lost more than money that summer. She lost her position, her reputation, and any chance at the easy future she'd envisioned. Our parents learned that favoritism costs more than they'd imagined, and that their love needed to be distributed more carefully. The wake-up call came at a high price, but it forced necessary changes in how our family operated. As for me, I survived. I found my own path, built my own life, and learned to exist without needing validation from people who'd failed me. The scars remain, but they remind me of my own resilience and the importance of standing firm when accused unjustly. That summer, when I was 13, became the summer that changed everything. The season of injustice eventually gave way to truth, and the girl who was wrongfully punished emerged stronger than anyone expected. Sometimes the worst experiences teach the most valuable lessons, and sometimes family betrayals lead to the most important personal growth. Years have passed since that May afternoon when my world turned upside down. The memories have faded somewhat, but the lessons remain sharp and clear. Trust must be earned. Truth matters more than convenience. And sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us deepest. The girl who was wrongfully accused at 13 learned to demand justice, question authority, and never accept punishment for crimes she didn't commit. Those lessons shaped everything that came after, building a foundation of strength and skepticism that served her well in the years ahead. My sister's perfect image never recovered. And maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. What's a time someone betrayed your trust, and how did it change you?